first things first. It's been a wild 5 days. It's been a wild 5 days in America. Would you agree?
I agree. Yes.
Understatement?
No, it's not. Wild's a good word for it.
Yeah. So okay. In talking to you, Frank Romano, who's like 70 years old, a 1966 graduate of high school. He was my college coach from Kent State. Frank Romano said he's never seen anything like this in his whole entire life.
Correct. Yeah. So he said this is his 50th year coaching, and he said, nothing like this. And I've seen a lot in a little over 10 years of coaching, so I can imagine what you see in 50 years. He said nothing like it, and crazy.
So were you in college yet at 9/11?
I would have been my second year of college. That's been brought up a lot in conversation with people. Like the closest comparison, really, I think, in terms of the reaction nationwide.
September 11th, 2001, we're attacked by an enemy combatant, right? Obviously it's DC, it's Pennsylvania, and obviously New York City, right? So that's huge because there's an enemy combatant, right? It's someone trying to kill us and did kill 3,000 people, basically.
Sure.
This is a whole nother situation in that if you look at Italy, Italy's completely locked down. Have you seen that?
I've seen that, and I thought I just heard they're locking down the West Coast, like San Francisco.
It's locked down for 3 weeks, is what I saw for San Francisco.
Yeah.
So obviously we're heading on a trajectory towards like what Italy had, and dude, the whole thing is just so crazy to me, and it's unprecedented. I talked to Chandler Menard, I talked to Tyler Warner. Probably gonna get on with like Jeff Breeze, coach at Lake Erie College, Joey Simcoe at Tiffin. You guys are Division III. You're the only Division III person I've talked to so far, and my ignorance of Division III is great. So you got to help me out with Division III. How many qualifiers? Yeah. How many day tournament?
So we're a 2-day tournament. So I'll give maybe more information than you're asking for, but there's 6 regions across the country. They're divided relatively equally on numbers. In fact, there's a rule that no region could be the difference can't be greater than 3 teams. So I think, you might have 17 and you might have 20 is the biggest difference. Very much geographically, there's a few areas where on those borders they get a little funny, but for the most part, so our region is not necessarily because of the states, but it's all the schools from Ohio, all the schools from Indiana, and all the schools from Michigan that are D3.
So OAC.
I'm sorry, what?
OAC.
Yep, the OAC, and then
Wabash, Manchester.
Yeah. Wabash, Manchester, Trine.
Okay.
Michigan, Alma, Adrian, Olivet.
Okay.
And then you have the other Ohio schools, Case Western Reserve, Mount St. Joe's. I'm probably missing someone, but that is our region. So top 3 qualify from each of the 6 regions, putting together an 18-man bracket at the national tournament.
Okay.
Friday, Saturday deal. If you get through Friday, you are an All-American.
Okay. So you wrestle 3 rounds on Friday. Championship, 2 consi.
Counting the rat tail, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess, yeah. Championship, rat tails, prelims, quarterfinals,
yep.
Consos. You wrestle that blood round Friday evening.
Yep. Okay. So, and D3 has more teams than D2, but D2 keeps adding, right?
Yeah, D3's been adding. I want to say there's going to be 4 or 5 new ones just next year. It seems to be 3 to 4 per year. Hiram, for example, right here in Ohio, will be a new program next year. So we have, I want to say it's like 108 or something like that.
It's 108 schools?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Hiram.
That'll be past, like I said, 3, 4 more next year.
Is Hiram adding both men's and women's?
They are. The plan, what I last read, was men next season, women the following season.
Okay. Hiram is 11 miles from my house.
Oh, nice.
It will be the closest college program with wrestling. You guys are about 25 minutes. You and Notre Dame College are about 25 minutes, 30 minutes from my house, give or take. And then, because you live in Solon, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool comment.
Go Comets. You know, my wife, that's where she teaches. My wife's a high school teacher there.
Oh, nice. Number one school district in the state. Good for
Okay. I can tell you why if you go look at this Twitter video. My wife is in there teaching right now. My wife is, I swear to you, I'm telling you, like Riverside where I teach, we're suspended through March 30th. Like online lessons don't begin until March 30th for our kids. They're at it right now. Solon is like
Nice.
finishing their 9 weeks and yeah, like you're saying, it's number one. And is that where you went? You went to Solon High School, did you?
I did, yeah. Yes.
Okay. So Vinny DiGiovanni was your head coach, right?
Tony.
Vinny's his son. Okay. Is Vinny a year younger than you?
He's two. I was a senior. He was a sophomore.
He won state as a senior, didn't he?
He was a runner-up as a sophomore. Didn't place as a junior. Was a champ his senior year.
Okay, so his sophomore year, did you guys make it to state together?
I did. Yeah, I did not place. I watched him.
You didn't place at state. Did you ever place for Solon?
I was not a state placer. I qualified only as a senior.
Okay.
And yeah, I did a lot better in college.
And you're a how many time All-American for John Carroll?
3-time academic All-American. Just once.
Just once. Just once. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that. I'm sorry. My bad. I didn't mean to. My bad.
I got there 4 times. It always fell short. 3 out of 4. But that is the sport. Yeah,
that's a part of the deal, and it's crazy because your dad is a Division I and a Division III All-American. How many time All-American in D3 was your dad?
So he was third, first, and then 5th in the D1s. And I forget, I want to say it was up to maybe like 1990 or around then. They were allowing the D3 champs.
I think 89-90 might have been the last year because Hasselrig won 88, 89, 90 is what I want to say, or 80, 89, 87, 88, 80, and 99, I think, if I'm not wrong, because Hasselrig won 6 titles. He won.
Yeah.
And he's D2. UPJ's D2. So whole thing is so crazy.
1 or 2 D3 guys who went on to win the D1 title. I know a guy from Montclair.
So crazy.
I think there's one other, maybe a New Jersey guy.
You got to be crazy good, dude. Crazy good.
Yeah, times have changed, I think. I mean, back then, and this would be a whole other conversation. I think a guy who could be a complete stud just goes D3 because that's a school down the road, and the scholarship at D1 might have been like, hey, we'll pay your full ride, otherwise you're out of pocket $3,000 because that's what tuition was. So
and that's so crazy.
People just kind of went divisions, whatever.
Okay, so how many D3 schools have you been the head coach of?
3. So when I left Carroll, I actually spent a year at Notre Dame the first year of the program as an assistant under Frank, and then was at Mountain Union for 5, Case Western Reserve for 3, and then back at Carroll now. Just finished my 5th year.
So 5, 3, 5. So you're 13 years as a head coach in Division 3.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And you wrestled all of your years, 4 or 5 years at John Carroll.
I was 5. So back in those days, you could take a red shirt. So I did a red shirt. I don't know. It just, to me, I made sense to take a year to develop, and that's what I did. So I took that red shirt year my first year, won some opens, practiced every day, and then went 4 years after that and wrestled.
Okay. So yeah, it's just, I don't think a lot of people know a lot about Division III wrestling. You guys don't give athletic grants, but you give grant and aid, correct?
Correct. Yeah, need-based and academic-based. So, you're as a coach, we always kind of look for maybe like a sweet spot, right? You got to find that guy who hits the numbers, academically, but then again, if he's too high, he's going Ivy League or something. So, you want to find that guy who's good enough to get the good grants and aid, but not so good that he looks down on our education. So that's kind of the sweet spot. Same thing financially. Certain families, it's a weird thing. It's like they make enough money to not qualify, but then not enough money that they can just dish out the money required. So it's a constant balance and challenge, but in the end of the day, I think we tend to get the people who are picking a Division III school for a Division III school, not for wrestling.
And it's like whenever I talked like a guy like Willie Saylor, he's like, if you're D2 or you're D3, you're D2 or you're D3 for a reason. I mean, I don't think he's totally wrong there, but I think your biggest battles that you guys fight is you're fighting with the Ivy League. If a guy's good enough, he's going to go to the Ivy League. It's just like, I know you guys can't talk about names of recruits, but like if you look at Hatcher's going for the guy from Brecksville. He's going to Cornell, but that's a guy I think that, like if he's fifth or sixth in the state, maybe he looks at John Carroll, you know what I mean? Rather than top two, top three, you know what I mean? It's like he's right to a degree.
Well, one thing I say often is I think a lot of wrestlers want to wrestle Division III. They just don't know it. I mean, the balance. I'll talk to someone I know who wrestled D1 for 2 years, and it didn't work out. And they're like, yeah, I hated it. I had to do this. The coach controlled my life, all that stuff. And then I'm like, well, yeah, it sounds like you would have loved Division III wrestling. And they're like, but then their egos, I would never do that. It's like, man, it's a great sport, but a lot of people don't want it to be everything about them, and that's where I think D3 is great. I like to say our guys, we want to win, we want to be the best we can be, we want to be All-Americans, national champs, all that stuff, but we don't get many guys leaving Carroll other than myself who want to become coaches, and they all want to become coaches, and then their first job offer they go, coach, what do you think about this? And I'm like, you're 22 and your first job offer is more money than I make. And they're like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah. Like, yeah, I don't think I want to coach. We put people into careers, and that's something I enjoy.
I think the best example of what you're saying is like Gerard James.
Mm-hmm.
and his younger brother, Jordan. Those guys are D1 talents, there's no question. But D3 is and what's best for those guys, in my opinion.
Sure, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, this is 4 years, and I think count on one, two hands maybe how many wrestlers are making over six figures. Not many. So how many former wrestlers are making six figures in professional careers? Like all of them.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I think that's what it is. And if we had a professional league, then Division I might make a little more sense, because if that's the only way to get into it, then so be it.
Okay, so let's rewind to last Thursday. It's Tuesday already. We're 5 days removed, but let's rewind back last Thursday. Where were you when you got the news? You guys, was it Cedar Falls? Where was your NCAA tournament at?
Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So
Cedar
we
Rapids.
had a meeting at 2:00 Central. That meeting was over at 3:00, and at 3:30, probably by 3:15, I kept hearing the rumor, it's canceled. And I just told my guys, I said, until I get an official statement from the NCAA, we're wrestling. And, 10, 15 minutes later, I got a text, email, all that stuff, said it was done. So as of our meeting at 2:00, it was on. I was like joking with a couple coaches, because they no longer were charging admission. All refunds were issued, and they just gave each coach a packet of tickets, which was for no charge, 6 tickets per wrestler. And I was like joking with the other coach. I go, hey, if we go up to get our tickets and they're like, oh, we'll explain later, but we're not giving the tickets right now, that's probably a good sign that things are canceled. But they're like, here's your tickets, check in, all this stuff. Went to the meeting, explained, this is, it's all logistics. Make sure your kids are here at this time, weigh-ins, this. Leave the meeting, or like, it's happening. So that was that, and then half hour later, it was gone. So we were actually getting ready to go practice, and get our weights down, and then that was it. So,
how many qualifiers, and what were the years of each qualifier? How many freshmen, sophomore, juniors? What'd you have? Seniors? What'd you have?
4, 2 sophomores, Andrew Korolka and Luke Rakowski at 125 and 165, and then a junior in Jared Breslin, a junior eligibility wise, but he's actually he's in grad school right now. So everybody has 1 or 2 years left after this year. So I don't know what that would be like, and I'm glad I don't. What those coaches dealing with their seniors would have been like, because I mean, I know if I would have took that like a death, if I was a senior wrestler, right? Like that would have been horrible.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for all those people, but thankfully for us, we didn't have to deal with that. It was just, it was bad. I think we were also warned. Like I described it like almost like a death, in say like, you have a family member who's been sick for 5 years and then they finally die. You're not as broken as if it just came out of nowhere. Like,
yeah.
Every move we made, we're like getting on the airplane and I'm going, are they going to ground flights? We land. We're like, okay, is this happening? So we were suspecting this for a while. And even I talked to coaches after that meeting. They said, until the whistle blows, I'm not confident this is happening. So our guys were warned. They were hearing rumors all week. So I think that made it a little easier too.
I got some real perspective in all these interviews I've been doing. Chandler Menard from Ashland, his brother died of a fentanyl overdose.
Oh, wow.
And that to me is the biggest, there's a lot of kicks to the gut, but his older brother who he shared bunk beds with, when that kid told me that out, and he was like, I haven't even thought of it like that. Like he hadn't thought of that until I brought it up to him, and he, and I asked him, you've had some horrible things happen in your life, and he taught, and I was like, dude, you have perspective, and then it almost like changed for him. It felt like he's like, oh yeah, the worst thing on the world's already happened to me. One of the worst things ever. His brother died of a drug overdose, and the dude has amazing perspective. Colin Moore has amazing perspective. He even said that. He's like, all my failure and all my, awful things that have happened to me in life have been wrestling things. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
no doubt, yeah.
And he was like, it's not like it's a death. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I actually, that's something I touch on. We do like an awards banquet, every year, and I always start with like a story about perspective, and it's, a story kind of like our worst day the entire past year was, in a given year, it's a guy not qualifying or a guy not All-Americaning, and college athletics don't even exist in other countries. Division III athletics, whatever. Say an All-American or a national champ in Division III is maybe in the entire country call him the 20th best even wrestler at his weight, or 30th best, or I don't know. And that guy's not competing in most countries. You are not good enough if you're only the 20th best to have an opportunity to compete. They are only, a lot of these Russian countries, if you're not in the top 5 or 6 at your weight class, that's it. Don't waste your time. So yeah, the fact that these guys can compete, it's pretty awesome. The NCAA's got a lot of negative press about it, but same, and they're not perfect by any means, but man, same thing. They give so many opportunities to so many kids. And really, I've coached a lot of kids who stink. They're not good wrestlers, but they're able to do it, right? And that opportunity doesn't exist a lot of places. So for sure, yeah, our guys handled it really well. I was more maybe proud of that than anything else. Of like, they were just like, they knew the situation. It wasn't like, I don't know. The worst case scenario almost would be like if our school was like, you can't go, and every other three went, then that might be something that would sting a little bit. But the way it went down, I think it was no way to change it. There's nothing we could do.
No, one of the UWs, it was like lacrosse or Eau Claire. Was it lacrosse? They weren't even sending them.
They were not, as of, I believe, Wednesday or Thursday morning, and then they were cleared to go.
So crazy. But like that right there was, for me, I was like, that's it. Only one school's got to do that, and that's it.
Unfortunately, yeah, and you hear all the hearsay, like, oh, well, if same thing with D1, I heard some schools were not permitting their teams to go.
Harvard.
One team does.
Harvard.
Opens up the floodgates.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say about the D1 thing compared to you guys, and why the D1 thing's just not nearly as bad. For me, at least, I'm talking selfishly. I wasn't in Minneapolis sitting there ready for the whistle to blow, picking up my media credential, ready to go. I'm here at home. I got 10 days to cancel my flight. I didn't have a hotel yet. You guys were there. You're there. You're in the arena. The mats are laid down.
Oh, we were already wrestling with people.
Yes.
I actually said, like, to me, a solution could have been, they say, like, guys, we're starting an hour early on Friday, and we are doing it all in one day. Like, I think the damage done there could have been, about the same, right, in terms of spreading things. But at least you could say, you're getting out of here early. We're getting this done. We're not stopping. No breaks. No parade of All-Americans. Something like that could have happened. So for sure, that was the hardest part. I mean, we got done. I talked to my guys. We kind of had a moment, or whatever you want to call it, and then it was like, we got to get home. And then you start panicking, like, well, it's Thursday. We don't want to be here till Sunday morning. And then you start thinking of, like, end of days, like, are we going to be stuck here? So we, like, ended up just staying a night, and then we ended up driving the whole way home.
Okay, that was you guys that drove. Was that you guys that weren't allowed to fly back?
There was nothing that said we couldn't. We just, that was a decision I just made, because you could not. So my parents and my wife actually flew in Thursday. As it happened, the cancellation happened while they were midair. They land, they call. I said, it's done. They stayed at the airport. They go right to Delta. Delta said, we're so backed up, we can't do anything. Here, you got to call. There is a 6-hour wait to talk to someone right now.
Oh my God.
I mean, so it was
nightmare, dude.
Yeah. So I just said, screw it, we're driving. Like, we'll worry about stuff later. We're just going to get out of here, because God forbid we wait, like, and get stuck. We're stuck here even longer than we drive home anyway on Sunday morning or something. So, okay. And then same thing, I was like, we could maybe get a flight. I know some teams did change their flights, but I think if you weren't the first one at the airport, you probably weren't going to change that day.
So
and it's Cedar Rapids. It's not like it's a flight hub either,
Yeah, I have a hard time traveling in and out of Iowa. When I travel to Iowa, usually you got to fly to, like, the Eastern Iowa Regional Airport, which is near Iowa City. And then you got to drive everywhere.
Is actually
Yeah.
Eastern Iowa.
Yeah, and then there's that one. I mean, there's a couple airports, but everything is a connection. Whereas, like, you can go Cleveland to San Francisco, you can go to Cleveland to LAX, you can go direct Cleveland, Atlanta. They have no, unless it's either Chicago, Atlanta, Denver. You know what I mean? Those you don't get a direct flight. You had to fly to Chicago, didn't you?
We were Detroit.
No, you get my point, though. Like,
Chicago,
you got to
people went Minneapolis. And
Yeah.
people in Atlanta. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's never. You have to be one of the top 5 big ones. Houston, you know what I mean? It's got to be a gigantic airport in order to fly into there, and you're always connecting through somewhere.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh man, what a logistical nightmare! Man, I really got to commend you on getting. How was the rental place swamped at all? Did you get a van? What'd you get?
We had a van. We got one before we got there. I waited till Friday morning, and I called them. I said, "We're taking this back to Cleveland," and then they're just like, "Okay," then we just drove. So I think we had to pay an extra
the one way
return fee.
Yeah, the one way.
I don't even know if they were slammed, because I never went back to the airport.
You're smart.
So, yeah. So, and I mean, it was kind of like, hats off to my kids. Like, it was a great van ride home. We were in the van for 9-10 hours, and the guys were in good spirits, and it's like, pretty proud of that. Like, they're just like, we could have sat there and moped for that entire ride, but they were having a good time. Just being with each other, and that was pretty cool. So again, like, if I at that age, I was probably an idiot. I would have been like sitting in the back moping like a baby. So I was pretty proud that my guys were real, good spirits about everything. So
is Gross a transfer from Northwestern?
Yeah, so Gross was at Northwestern for a year and a little bit. I think they're on quarters, so I think he didn't finish the first quarter of his sophomore year, or I forget the exact timeline of it, and then came home. He's been at Carroll ever since, but he was a part-time student for years are escaping me now. Probably 2 years. He was just taking classes. So he came in basically. So last year, as he graduated, he was a sophomore eligibility. He had one other year with us. He broke his ankle early in the season, so never wrestled. So yeah, he's got and technically he's eligible for a medical hardship. I don't know that he would take it, but so right now he's in grad school and he's got one more year with us. So he has his degree in economics. He's getting his MBA right now.
Okay. He's the type of guy I think, obviously, is talent wise out of high school. He's the type of guy that can win D3, and no question, in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, he was the 6th seed going in. We felt that he could hang with anybody. I mean, he was beating the guy he would have saw in the quarters. He was beating him earlier this year and made a mistake and got taken down with 20 seconds left to his back, I guess. So takedown would have been fine. He got taken down to his back. And so, yeah, he's competitive. He was, as you probably have seen when guys are out of it, it's you don't forget a lot, but your timing and certain things go off, and it's taken him a little bit to get it back. But now he's pretty darn tough. So I think next year that's the goal. He wants to win it all.
That's good. You at least get him back a year. You know what I mean? And like,
yeah.
Geez, Pete, when did that guy graduate from high school?
He's 23 or 24 right now.
He's like a 2015, 2015 grad.
This would be his 6th year out, I believe.
Yeah, so 2014, 2015.
Something like that, yeah.
Jeez, Pete. But you know what, man? He gets another opportunity. That's good. You know, Colin Moore doesn't sound like he's going to get another opportunity. I'm going to talk to Evan Cheek later today. He's probably not going to get another opportunity. Zach Carson, the Menard from Ashland, who I told you about with his brother. He's not going to get another opportunity. How do you feel about that, Mark? A 6th year granted for some of those people.
So, I think it's been interesting. I like reading what people say. I've heard D3 coaches, when they made the announcement about, okay, it's canceled or whatever, and they made the big mistake of sending that as an email and not blind copying everybody. They sent it as an email and included all the emails, so then the reply all started happening. And coaches were saying things like kids should be granted another year of eligibility, or they should be able to go next year, even if they're not in college, even if they're taking no classes, they should be able to come and compete again.
People were saying that?
I was reading stuff about high school. People were saying they should let college freshmen, I mean, granted, this is probably a minority saying this, college freshmen should be allowed to compete in the 2021 state tournament.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but that's ridiculous.
Anytime you're faced with something like as a wrestler, you could have these irrational thoughts of I probably had it when I was finishing up and didn't finish Hawald. I'm like, oh, what if they found out I had an extra year of eligibility? These are it's like, what would I do if I won the Mega Millions? These are normal thoughts, I think, to say this is wrong. How do we fix it? But then, first of all, the NCAA, the financial implication of this is going to be devastating. So let's just be hopeful that we have NCAA sports next year. But I just think it's horrible that these kids, it stinks, but I don't know how you can just start making new rules, because there's going to be so many consequences that come from it, right? Of now, what do you do with scholarships and everything else, especially Division I? And I think that one of the problems is the teams that will benefit the most, there'll be 3 or 4 schools that benefit if you give D1, added eligibility, and those are the good teams, and you're just going to widen the gap. I don't know that's right. D3 is supposed to be more of an academic model. I mean, how do you say kids, hey, don't move on with your life? It's just, I don't know. It's horrible. It's sad. I just don't think that's the answer. I mean, I think if anything, we should be looking at a way to run a tournament in the summer, even maybe all you need from the NCAA is send in the awards and give us your blessing and allow us to practice for a couple of weeks, right? That seems to be more realistic. Don't ask for money. Don't ask. Everybody's on their own. Brackets are the same. That seems more realistic than allowing people to come back a whole another year. I don't see that happening either, quite honestly. So I think it's horrible. It stinks, but man, life stinks. I mean, most people who ever wrestle, that's the game. The game. How many people are state champs or even state placers? How many people are All-Americans? How many people are even starters in a college team?
Yeah.
This sport is built around a bunch of dudes who busted their butt and didn't get trophies, and now they're crushing it in life. So I mean, life stinks. Your family, you're gonna have a kid get sick, or you're gonna have you're gonna lose your business. Like, what do? You can't sit and cry about it. So, again, I'm saying that knowing that I think all those emotions are normal too. So I'm not attacking any of those coaches. I just think it's a horrible situation. I just don't know that you can just start making all these exceptions now.
Yeah, man, life stinks. And right now, life in America, and it's not even that bad. I'm home, I was out cutting wood with my kids, and I was splitting wood, and they're helping me stack wood, and sitting in front of the fire, hanging out. We're playing. We're hitting baseballs. We're doing, like, you're home with your family right now. That's like the best thing, right? For me.
Well, yeah, think of all the places, again, and I don't like to sound like be on a soapbox here, but across the world, people, like, our inconveniences, like, we bought extra food just in case that, we can't go to the store or something, like, with the money we have and the places filled with food. Like, it's just, it's a tough world we live in. And yeah, quite frankly, I'm grateful we have the opportunities that we do, because it allows us to be upset when little tiny things go wrong, so that's and that's a good thing, I guess. Like, I want my own 2 children, like, I want them to be, like, disappointed. Like, the worst thing that's going to happen to them is, some girl dumps them, or they lose a wrestling match or some other sport. Like, that is hopefully the worst thing that happens to them. So, and if that's it, like you say, we're pretty darn lucky. And I have some history as a coach. I've had some tragedy. I mean, that's almost made me numb to maybe a situation like this. Like, yeah, big deal. We lost wrestling. Like, I've lost people,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it puts things in perspective. I think we all have an opportunity to be better from it, quite frankly. So I hope that's the case.
No doubt, man. I mean, it is. You're right. I mean, they have satellite images of them digging mass graves in Iran. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did not know that.
I don't even know. I don't. Like, they're digging mass graves in Iran right now. That's how bad this has hit them, and obviously it's hit Italy really bad. Italy has a large percent of their population that smokes, so that is really it contributes to whenever you have a respiratory infection. I mean,
Sure.
and you're smokers.
I've also heard Italy has an older population.
It's like Japan and Italy have these huge baby boomer, or as the kids are calling them now, boomers. They have huge baby boomer populations, and then they have a smaller. If you looked at the Chinese population, it looks like this. It's like a pyramid where you have a large amount of kids, 0 to 14, 15 to 25. They have massive population because they got 1.4 billion people. And then they have a very small, older population. You flip it for Japan. Japan has a smaller, younger population than they do older. If you didn't know that, it's like demographics and how it is right now.
And even if, like, and you're in Auburn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I live on, it's 2 acres, and I'm thinking there are people who are. So yesterday, I mean, not that we're on any type of lockdown, but, like, me and the boys were, like, playing around outside. Like you say, you're cutting wood. It's like, if they said, like, you can't leave your property, there are people who are confined in, like, a 200 square foot space.
Yes.
That happens. Like, for me, it's like, man, that's smaller than my garage. So
and they got shared air ducts. Yeah,
for sure.
They're sharing air ducts with the rest of an apartment too, and with.
Yeah. Oh, geez, I didn't think of that. That's scary.
Think about that. They're sharing a lot of those air ducts are shared.
Yeah. And I was in Italy last spring. I mean, incredible place, but yeah, very much packed together. At least the parts we were in, the main parts. But so it's wild. It's pretty scary, but hopefully it doesn't last too long. So John Carroll is closed for the remainder of the semester, May 15th. All fitness facilities closed. Classes will be online for the remainder of the semester. So I'm assuming that's going to follow. I've heard schools will be. They haven't, pulled the trigger, but supposedly I'm hearing schools could be shut down till the summer break. So I think I'm hoping that the disease doesn't get worse, but I think some of the precautions will get.
Oh, yeah.
In a sense.
Next 10 to 14 days is going to be wild.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Like what you did.
lucky for people like me and you, we're in jobs where it's not crushing us.
Yeah, what's a server do? What's a server do? A bartender do? What do they do?
I don't know. Yeah, that is scary.
Yeah, and I have a rental property. Both the guys work in a restaurant.
Oh wow.
They can't pay their rent, is my guess. I mean, I don't know, but it's just wild, man. You're saying, we're pretty lucky. We're pretty lucky. So, all right, you got anything else for me?
No, I mean, I guess since everybody else is doing it, recruiting is gonna be a challenge. So I've been seeing the funniest thing is
Oh, the dead period. Are you on the dead period too?
we all are, yeah. So I don't know if it's funny or but I'm seeing like coaches are literally like Division I coaches are going on Twitter like, hey, you know anybody, send them my way. I'm going, wow, this is gonna be spread out, where people are gonna go, we can't count on our commits, we can't count on bringing more kids in, so they're changing their tactics. So I gotta use this as a I guess a marketing tool here. So John Carroll, hit us up if any young guys are watching. I think we're a place that can prepare you for the real world, but hopefully get you some wins on the mat too. So that's my shameless plug right there.
What is your guys like? What's the big major for you guys? Like, you go to Purdue, it's engineering, right?
Yeah. I describe John Carroll as, even within our team, 50% of our guys are business, 25% are science, 25% are everything else.
Okay.
So the sciences are typically kind of on a pre-med, or at least maybe not, going to be a doctor, but like a pre-physical therapy type of thing. So our big thing is our business college. We have, that's what we're best known for in terms of academics. So that's most of our guys. So we have a very, our guys are very similar. Like they're all kind of the same thing. They all want to come in here, wrestle, get a degree, and then make money. That's kind of the typical John Carroll guy. So that's our big thing. And a lot, some guys wish I think one or two of our seniors are graduating, might stick around and get their MBA too, which is kind of cool. So that's our big academic push. And I think, one of the big things is our network, just being connected in Northeast Ohio, especially of you go on a job interview. I always use a story. I went on a job interview for an internship when I was in college, and the guy was a Carroll guy. He played football, and we talked about football and wrestling for the entire interview. Like there was no question about like my work skills or like my brain or anything. It was just like wrestling and football stories. And when I was done, I'm going like what just I was a young guy. Like, what just happened? Like, is that bad? Like all we did was BS the whole time. And then, and that was it. And then that was actually a preliminary. They invited me back for another interview. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. That's what John Carroll's all about.
So Volkman was probably one of his football coaches.
For sure, yeah.
And then Volkman was your head coach.
Was for a while. And DeCarlo was wrestling and then became that football coach. So yeah, wrestling's very much intertwined with the history of John Carroll. I mean, those guys, London Fletcher was just up he was put in the College Football Hall of Fame. And so I see him at the game because we worked the concession stand and we're talking about Volkman. And he takes Coach Moran, our former basketball coach, up on the Goodyear blimp and stuff. Like, yeah, we're just connected with stuff like that. And because it's just all these guys impact a lot of lives. And, yeah, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, for sure. And everybody knows everybody. Volkman and DeCarlo are just, very few people were in athletics and don't know who those guys are over the past 50 years.
No doubt, man. Well, hey, I'm going to cut this interview. Hang around a little bit afterwards. I want to talk to you a little bit afterwards. But, dude, thank you for the time. I appreciate you. Go check out. You can go check it out on, on the Facebook Live copy. It'll be up right away. You can go check that out. But hang out a little bit here, and thanks for the time, all right?
Yeah. Thanks, Deb.